Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο ότι αγαθός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Εξομολογήστε το Θεό, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Το ποιήσαν τη θαυμασία μεγάλα μόνο, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Το ποιήσαν τους ουρανούς, εσύνεση, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Προστέρεωσαν την γην επί των υδάτων, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Το λύσαν τη πόρτα μεγάλα μόνο, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Πολύλιον εις εξουσίαν της ημέρας, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Της ελίτης γερούσας δέας, της εξουσίαν της νυχτός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Ο πατάς αντιέγητος εις της πρωτοτόκης αυτών, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια. Και εξαγαγότητον Ισραήλ εκ μέσου αυτών, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα.
Bonjour, vous l'avez compris, notre émission aujourd'hui est une spéciale portant sur la sainteté exemplaire de Saint Nectarios d'Égine. Mon Christ, je n'ai ni tablier ni chaussures, je te demande de me les envoyer, tu sais combien je t'aime. C'est ainsi que s'adressa au Christ Anastase, le futur Saint Nectarios d'Égine du haut de ses 10 ans, en 1856, seul à Constantinople, venant de la Thrace ottomane, d'une famille pauvre mais digne, les Képhales, devant travailler pour étudier. Il a posté ses paroles confiantes au Christ dans une lettre postée au Seigneur Jésus-Christ au ciel. La sainteté exemplaire de Saint Nectarios d'Égine a été proclamée à la face du monde entier par le patriarche Athénagoras de Constantinople en 1961. Métropolite de la Pentapolis, les 5 villes du patriarcat d'Alexandrie, né en 1846, mort à Athènes en 1920, l'auteur du célèbre chant à la Théotokos, la mère de Dieu, Agni Parthène, mondialement connu, Nectarios a été exilé injustement, condamné sans jugement, calomnié sans motif, et n'a eu de cesse de répondre aux tribulations, à l'adversité et à la calomnie par une humilité extrême, par un pardon discerné et par un amour christique, afin de triompher du mal par le bien. Il est le fondateur du monastère féminin de la Sainte Trinité à l'île d'Égine, à 1 heure du Pirée d'Athènes, où il repose, devenu une destination pour les pèlerins des 4 coins du monde. Un film exceptionnel, Man of God, l'homme de Dieu, qui connaît un rayonnement mondial et qui a été réalisé à l'occasion du centenaire de la naissance au ciel de Nectarios, vient de confirmer le rayonnement universel de sa sainteté exemplaire pour nous tous, ici et maintenant. Ce film, d'une grâce touchante, une belle mélodie de prière, qui connaît un succès mondial et sera projeté en France prochainement. Nous le devons à Yelena Popovic, sa réalisatrice, qui a été touchée, elle aussi, au plus profond de son être par la grâce de Saint Nectarios. Elle le fait sentir dans la beauté majestueuse et plus que rayonnante de ce film. Yelena, ici, avec le patriarche d'Alexandrie, Théodore, me fait l'honneur et le plaisir d'être mon invité pour un entretien exceptionnel. Nous allons voir maintenant un petit extrait du film qui est emblématique de la manière dont Saint Nectarios accueillait l'adversité par la vertu de la non-colère.
Votre Éminence. De la part du patriarche.
Merci. S'il te plaît, reste.
Ce n'est pas une bonne nouvelle. C'est ça?
Non.
Qu'est-ce qu'ils attendent de vous maintenant?
Ils veulent que je quitte l'Égypte.
Voilà pourquoi je doute de Dieu.
Il ne faut jamais perdre la foi, Minas.
Mais comment voulez-vous que je garde ma
S'il
foi?
te plaît, ne dis pas de telles choses.
Ils veulent que vous quittiez l'Égypte. Parce qu'ils ont peur que cela fasse un tollé. Les gens exigeront du
Je
gouvernement...
ne veux pas que quoi que ce soit de la sorte se produise, est-ce clair?
Mais pourquoi, votre Éminence?
Je ne ferai rien qui puisse blesser mon père Sophronios.
Votre père? Après ce qu'il vient de vous faire?
Je ne peux contredire sa parole. Je me dois de partir. Très bientôt et sans esclandre, sans conflit, Minas.
Yelena, I'm very pleased to have you in this program in Paris.
I'm very pleased to be here and thank you for having me.
Welcome. My first question is a little bit personal. You are Serb. Serbia is a beloved country that I visited with Patriarch John, while Irenaeus was still Patriarch before the election of Porphyrios. We have been to Belgrade, we've been to Montenegro and Kosovo. I know what Orthodoxy means for this country and for this lovely people. Your name now is very famous in all the Orthodox world, and as we say in French, more famous than fire on a flag. Please tell us a little bit about you. Who is Yelena Popovic?
Well, by the way, I had a chance to meet His Holiness Patriarch Porphyrios when I was in Belgrade. I wanted to say that I was honored that he came to the premiere of the film, and I was very honored that happened. It was a wonderful experience, and it was very special for me to be at the place where I was born and to show the film to my people. Who am I? I guess we're all in some kind of process of becoming.
Very nice.
I hope I am in a process of becoming something better every day.
It's already very good.
That's but just to say, yes, I was born in Belgrade. I grew up in a very simple family with my mother and father. I had an older brother who was 18 years older than me. So I was pretty much like an only child at one point. I must say that even though I was born in Serbia to a Serbian parent, I wasn't raised in an Orthodox tradition because at the time it was Yugoslavia, it was a different system, different regime. People really didn't go to church as much.
Yeah.
However, I remember my father talked a lot about his roots. You know, he's actually somebody that even before he passed away, he left about 19 names on his tomb. He made his own tomb, stone, before he passed away. And he was very proud of his ancestors, who were very heroic people, who suffered a lot, who fought for freedom. So that was an important part for something that I knew a lot about. But they weren't going to church. So when I was when I was there, I did have, for whatever reason, I don't remember how and why, but I had a strong faith in God. I believed in God, and I believed there was somebody out there that created everything that we see, and that
it was in the atmosphere.
Yes, it was a protection.
Yeah.
And even maybe being an only child and spending a lot of time alone, I never felt alone. I felt there was warmth and some kind of a friendly presence around. So when I left, it was at the time when Yugoslavia was about to become 5 different countries. Before the terrible war that took place. I left, I was almost 17. I remember going to church and asking God to protect me on my journey. And that's, I think a few days later I was gone, and my goal, my dream was to go to United States and to try to make a better life for myself and my family. I think one of the reasons was that my father, who was a civil engineer, one of the best in the country, and he was an extremely honorable and ethical man. He was unjustly prosecuted. There was a point where he worked in one of the decent companies at the time, and they didn't know really what to do with him because they couldn't, he wouldn't cut corners, he wouldn't allow for things to happen illegally. Just to make some extra money. He was beloved by the workers. He respected the simple and the poor, but people that were in higher positions, they were sort of getting exposed by this man who simply wanted to be righteous. And they brought about it's exactly 6 false witnesses to the court.
Wow.
To testify falsely against him, and that's how they got rid of him. So I think, and then he worked in a really small factory, and I always watched and I witnessed and I heard a lot. How is it possible that a man like this, who could have had, I don't know what, so many homes, so many things, he just was so humble and happy with very little. How did he deal with this injustice? And maybe that's why I wanted to go. And at one point, he had a chance to leave, but he didn't leave. He stayed in Serbia. And I think that also encouraged me, maybe subconsciously, to go one day and to try to make something happen and make the life better for me and my family. So then when I came to the United States, I found out about who Jesus Christ was, who Mother of God was. I didn't even know that when I was living back home. And my heart reacted very quickly to that because I had already a lot of faith. And at age of 21, I went and got baptized in a Serbian Orthodox church in Los Angeles. And at age of 25, I had my first communion and confession. And this is when I had a experience, and this is not just imagination. I've actually, with my first communion, I've experienced a physical presence of grace. I was crying and laughing at the same time for like 6 to 7 hours. People thought I was drunk, but I wasn't drunk. And this is when I realized that there was something much deeper there. Yes, there's one thing having faith, but there is the whole mystery lies behind our faith, and we can. Closer we get to God, I mean, the gifts that we can achieve, and not only for ourselves, but to help others, are enormous. So that's when I got on the road of orthodoxy.
This was my second question, but you already answered the second question. And this is why I didn't want to interrupt you. The second question was, this great film, Man of God, is carnally linked to the essence of orthodoxy. My question was, what's the value of orthodoxy for you and in your life? And you already answered. So I'll go to the third question. And it's the way that you directed and you written the script is like orthodoxy lived in you all the time. And now you are growing in faith. But the way that you transposed this in the film, it's clear that you had it in you.
Well, I believe I have that in me, but the reason I chose to make a film about Saint Nectarios, after I read a book about him in 2012, was simply because I felt so close to his story. I felt that I understood it on a very personal level. There was something, probably because also I mentioned my father, also my personal experience with living only on faith, not having much, but always having faith that things will work out. And it rang really deeply into my soul. And I felt, because I had that very personal understanding, that I would be able to put myself in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I will be able then to have this human approach to the subject, which is very difficult. And therefore, I could bring Saint Nectarios to the hearts of people. And this is why I dare to embark on that journey, because I felt very close to the story. I felt I understood it. And again, my approach was extremely human. And because it's a film about faith, I didn't want to think about spirituality so much and about some high things. I stayed very low to the ground, and I did the work that I learned. I've studied in a very good school for actors, directors, and writers. And what we very much studied was that acting or directing is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances, and we always emphasize the truth. So when I approached the subject, I very much approached it that way, and I had to see what it meant to me, and having that personal understanding, I was comfortable in channeling that through his character.
Yeah, and this is clear when you see the film from A to Z, and this is what I felt, and I know very much Saint Nectarios before, is that this is not an hagiographic, what we say, hagiographie in French means that working on the life of saints. This is not hagiographic work, but this so real that you feel that maybe you and Saint Nectarios were both the director and the writer of the script. And I felt this while seeing this film. No?
Well,
he's present.
I can say that I honestly believe that I had his help. I asked him to help me. You know, when I first read about him, and it took about a year to get to the point where I did a lot of research, read different books, different biographies, listened to different talks about him. The first thing I had to do as a director, as an artist, is to decide what kind of movie I'm telling. Yes, I'm talking about Saint Nectarios, but you can make many films about Saint Nectarios.
Absolutely.
So I had to go to areas where I had a very good understanding about, areas that I felt really passionate about. And after about a year, when I had some sort of treatment or outline of a story, which was I put it in about 2 pages, now it was 2013, I came to Greece for the first time, and I went to Egina. And I remember going to venerate his holy relics. There was his tomb, and I put those 2 papers there, and I asked him, please, if this is really your will. I mean, I have a very strong desire in my heart. I feel really connected, and I feel extremely passionate about telling your story. But if this has to come with your blessing and with your will, and ask him to bless it. And I've done that 3 times more. I've done it a year later with a script in 2014, and I done it also in 2015 when the script was even further developed. And so the things were moving forwards. I, at that point, got a blessing from, I went to the monastery in Arizona, St. Anthony, the great monastery. And that's when I felt that I really believe that this is meant to be, and that he is, indeed, there is something here. Maybe I'm really meant to continue working on this, and with God's help, make it happen. And I always said, and I repeated this every time I was at the monastery, that I really wanted to make the movie to the glory of God and salvation of man. That was my main goal. And Once I got a blessing from Yelenapopov Ephraim from Arizona and Abbot Paisius, I moved back to Greece, not because of the film, but because just the life took me that way because of some family issues. And then when I found myself in Greece in 2016 in June, and I wasn't in a very good condition. I don't know what kind of spiritual condition I was, because this is a trick, because we never know. But I did not feel good. I was in a very low point in my life. I needed prayer desperately. I remember walking to church every morning from a flat where we stayed at, and I really needed to go there for about an hour by myself, do prayers so I can come home and I can have positive energy where people wouldn't be burdened by me and see that I was in pain. And in this turmoil, I thought, well, I'm in Greece now. It's been 20 years I was in US, my life in Los Angeles, things that I wanted to work on. I couldn't complain. I never got sick. I mean, I'm not here to say my life was so difficult. There are people that have much more difficult life than mine. But for me, for whatever I'm able to bear, it wasn't easy. And I basically, when I was in Greece, this thought came to me, maybe I'm here, and I have the script about Saint Nectarios. What if all this has happened for me to be here and to make this film?
You got the answer.
To make this film. So I went to visit Yelenapopov Nectarios Vitalis, who passed away a few years ago. I was blessed to have met him, to get his blessing to make a film, eventually, if it's God's will. And little by little, the doors were opening in a very miraculous way about this film.
This is mystery. This is mystery. We don't have time, unfortunately, to make all the aspects of the film. Two last questions. Aris Servitalis. I saw the film, and he was amazing. I forgot all the other actors, not because they are not well playing, but his presence. So how did you find him? And the last question is about Emir Kusturica, who said that your film is something salutary, he said. And I want to know what's your 2 words about making the title of the film. So the first one, let's speak of Aris. Yes.
That was another mysterious or miraculous event, I would say, because originally there was another actor attached to play the lead. And I met Aris through monks from a monastery, Vatopedi, from Mount Athos.
Very famous.
And they actually, the elder, Yelenapopov Ephraim, is the one who is actually responsible for making this film. He's the one who came up with all the means necessary to make this happen. So I have to thank him for this here. And but I also met Aris through them. And Aris was, because he's somebody who didn't used to be a believer, but had complete change in his life. He always was a famous actor. He's considered one of the greatest actors of his generation as far as his talent. Nobody doubts that. He's an extremely talented person.
Extremely talented.
But then he became at one point a very deep believer. And so when I have met him, and when I met him a couple of more times, I've realized that he's the one to play this role, because he had an aura. That without saying a word, without saying a word, you believe that he could be Saint Nectarios. And I was very fortunate and very blessed to have met him and to have a chance to work with him. I believe that we worked really well together. We understood each other very well. And again, I was always focused on the truth. He very much works that way, and I emphasize that in every aspect of filming. I was just focusing on that so much, and that's why when you watch this film, it shows that the truth comes out, that it's very real. There's no propaganda, there's no fakeness to it. It's a very honest story.
Now, which is very important, is that you show who, in essence, Nectarios was. in the Holy Week, we speak about the silence of God. And this is something which is extremely mysterious, the silence of God. And when you see the film, you feel Aris playing Saint Nectarios, the silence of God. But you feel also the extreme humility, the kindness, the caring to others that Nectarios represented. And if, like Emir Kusturica, you want to just put 2 words to finish this interview about who was Nectarios for you, what would you say?
Who was he for me?
Yeah.
He is a great example of what we need nowadays.
Yeah.
Example of love and forgiveness,
yeah.
which is necessary for the peace.
Forgiveness.
And forgiveness and love and faith. I mean, only with the faith that he had, we can have that kind of love and forgiveness in the difficult moments, which is necessary for the peace of this world and peace within our hearts.
Thank you very much, Yelena. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you yourself. It was a very nice interview. I think the film is very interesting and we can encourage all the people to get there, not only Orthodox, but...
It's for everyone.
It's for everyone, absolutely. Et moi, je vous dis à la prochaine émission.